It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman, and this show is brought to you by CartKing.com. CartKing.com, 877-986-7771. Have you ever thought of opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Like every Friday night around this time. You start thinking about that? Perhaps you want to add additional point-of-sale locations for the business you have right now. Maybe the facility you manage could kickstart revenue by adding coffee, food, or retail services. CartKing.com can be the answer to your needs. CartKing.com is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile retail, coffee, food, carts, and kiosks that money can buy. For 20 years, CartKing.com has been working with clients and corporations across America to provide indoor and outdoor carts and kiosks for any application. Carts and kiosks are fun, so are the dozens of designs on the website. Visit www.cart-king.com, 877-986-7771. You go to the website, you pick out the design that applies to your business. They'll custom design it for you, custom build it for you, and ship it worldwide, cartking.com. Check out my website, emailrevealer.com, where you can get the online infidelity investigation. Trace an email address back to online dating websites. Catch your spouse cheating online. Asset searches, locates, adoption investigations. Emailrevealer.com. Get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. Okay. Oh, boy. Okay. Well, we sent out a couple emails today inviting people to sign up to our members section. Got a lot of great new content we just put up in there. One is an interview with William Ramsey, which is an update on the smiley face killer. And we added to that also to a video of a press conference with Dakota James's mother. An interview with Crazy Cabby from the Howard Stern Show. We added that to as well. Let's see here. What else? An interview with Christine L. Kramer, local Democratic operative, about a bill that they just got entered into the House there. Medicare for All. Friend of the show had the bill submitted to the House. Isn't that something? Really getting things done here. Alex Desarkis from Skeptico interviews Ed Opperman for an hour and a half. The Gilligan Manifesto. That was an interview I really enjoyed. Ricardo Tenori talks about the migrant caravan. Jim Rothstein talks about a secret grand jury that he's aware of, has information about. And Stoner Van Houten, Spawn Ranch worker, talks about the Manson family today, what's going on with all the gossip and stuff and the controversies involving the Manson family. There's a lot of stuff going on with that bunch, too. There's all kind of lawsuits and ashes disappearing, pictures at funerals. There's a whole scene going on with that bunch. Ernest Del Casal, of Family Fathers' Rights Advocates here in Nevada. Oh, boy. Yeah. Why did I bring that up? And then we got the Hank Harrison update with Hank Harrison comes on the show, talks to us about an hour. And then Jamie Deluxe talks about Hollywood pedophilia. And then an exclusive with Monique Morgan, the husband of Shane Morgan, who got the flu shot, wound up in the ICU. So a lot of great content there. Send out a couple emails. Join our member section. If you're already a member, you can donate. You can always take a donation for you to keep us alive and on the air. We're still way behind. And now our financial situation there personally is even worse now, too, because Victoria's mother just totally cut off all support. And we got to take her back to court. And even then, it's only going to be for a couple of months before Victoria ends school. Unfortunately, just an evil woman who's now withholding clothing and birthday gifts and all kinds of personal items and stuff just to be spiteful. And just right before the show, I got a nice nasty letter from her lawyer. So put me in a really good mood to do the show for you tonight. Tomorrow we're playing a show about the Johnny Gosh. I don't know why we're repeating that so soon. I'm not sure why. Maybe I can talk to Shane. We can come up with something else to put there tomorrow. Because I did a show where we do call-ins. It's a really good show. We took live call-ins. And you can call in any time at 888-204-3834. You leave a message on the voicemail with a question or a comment, an insult. So we have one guy doing a comedy routine. He's my version of the community. The guy's really bad, though. Some guy up in Maine. And 888-204-3834. If you're going to do something funny, make some notes. Do something funny. Don't waste my time with your unfunny comedy routines, please. Okay, that's all I ask. Hey, okay. Well, I'm in a great mood tonight, man. Let's go. Everybody's always asking me about how's it going with the Daniel fast and stuff like that. With Daniel fast, I'm not doing a Daniel fast right now. I'm still vegan, but I have quit drinking. I quit drinking for about another month and a half. It's been about. So I don't know, man. Can you say you quit drinking if you only drink if you go 6 months without drinking and you drink for a month and you don't drink for another month after? Let's say you quit drinking, really hardly drink at all. I miss it though. Maybe I'll go out and get drunk and go. Do something bad. Okay, here we go. Let's start with this really big shoe. Let's see here. Where do I start? Ooh, how about this? We'll start with this little article in the news you might have missed. Do you remember the Brazilian spiritual healer, John of God? Who, it was this whole thing where people were going down to Brazil, and this guy supposedly had, was a faith healer, and he would put his hands on you and he'd hug you or something like that, and you'd be healed of your illnesses. So it turns out he was indicted and arrested for rape and sexually abusing 600 women down there. It seems what he would do is, the faithful would come to him, to be healed of their ailments, and sometimes he would take them. By the way, some of these people he's allegedly abused here were like little kids, 8, 9 years old. And he would say, "Okay, and you need more healing. I'm going to take you into a private room." And then that's back there where they would molest him. So 600 women have come forward to complain about this. And the statute of limitations down there is like only 6 months. So there's many for years that have been complaining about this. Fascinating. If you haven't heard this story, many people thought this guy was legit. Who knows? Who knows? I have one person, though, who always talking about this guy, John of God, was Sean David Morton from the, what was that Strange Universe, I think he called himself, that he used to have the show on before me on Revolution Radio. He had the show before. Then he's in prison right now himself, by the way. Maybe he'll visit John of God while he's in there for tax fraud and tax evasion, filling out these phony tax returns, and then try to pay off his tax debt with a coupon. He would print out a coupon and say, "If you accept this coupon, we're even." Oh my God, people never give up. I tell you, I'm in the wrong business. Also, too, you know what? If you're out there, we got some bad news. One of my favorite shows was Alan Abel. And he has this documentary about him called Abel Raising Cain. And he was this notorious, he just died this week, about 96 years old, I think he was. And I interviewed him in August 10th of 2014. And we did an interview with him, and he was, what his story is, he's a notorious, infamous hoaxer. And back in the 70s and the 80s in New York City, he would put on these scams with the local news media. He'd call out a press conference, and say he was a beggar, when he was teaching a school on how to go beg in the street, and you could make $500 a day begging in the streets, and different things like that, different crackpot stories, and the media would run with it without verifying or checking anything, and he became known as this notorious hoaxer, And so when I interviewed him, it was years later, and he was so happy, to get some attention, for his lifelong, work of hoaxing and being a jokester and a trickster. He really enjoyed the interview, and he told me about how all his hoax and his stuff were in a storage locker, and that the Smithsonian Institute or the archives or something like that wanted it was going to put his stuff on display. And he asked me, hey, can you send me a CD of the show? And I said, oh, yeah, sure. I'd get around to it. I never sent him a CD, And I felt bad about it. There's so many things. So many people contact me. They want stuff, Oh, man. I would love to give everybody the time they want, I can't. I just can't do it. They don't have the staff or the time. I'm working on so much stuff. But anyway, poor Alan A. Bell. I never sent him the CD. And now when I wanted to replay that show's gone. It's taken down off of YouTube. It's taken down off of Spreaker. Got deleted somehow. And I'm looking in my saved downloads in different areas, and I can't find it. If anybody has a membership to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, and you have a membership to their archives, I believe it's still in there. They're probably still selling my shows in there, those bums over there. Greedy bastards. Still use my name to promote their station. If you Google my name, their stuff comes up all over the place, man. It's shameless. Anyway, so if someone has a recording of that interview with Alan A. Bell, we'd like to spiff it up and do the Shane's magic on there and fix up the audio and then play it. So if you can find that out there and send it to me, I would really, really appreciate it. Just send me a note at oppermanreport@gmail.com. And I'd love to get that show out there for Alan A. Bell. Ooh, gang stalking. Okay. Oh, boy. Well, I don't know, man. I was going to do a little bit about how Trump was taking phone calls from little kids on Christmas Eve, and he told that one little kid who was 7 years old, you still believe in Santa Claus? Can you imagine? Oh, my gosh. I was going to do a whole bit on that, but I'm in no mood to make jokes. I'll be honest with you. I'm just in no mood tonight, But anyway, good old President Mr. Trump. This guy, can he be more like Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life? And the similarities between the two characters are just fascinating, And here, the White House Christmas tree is unlit. He didn't show up for the Christmas lighting ceremony. Now it's unlit because of his government shutdown, because he wants to build a wall to keep people out of the country. What's going on? And then he takes a phone call from a 7-year-old little girl, and he says, "Do you believe in Santa Claus? Do you still believe in Santa Claus?" That's marginal. That's kind of marginal. Oh, my God. And then there's all this controversy. The poor kid, the parents put out a statement. Oh, well, listen, all we know is there were presents the next day under the tree. We left out cookies. The cookies were eaten. We left out, the next day we woke up, there was presents under the tree. We went out. We have no other comment. Leave us alone. And then I heard that later on Trump called up the child again and told the kid that she's adopted. Okay. I made that part up. But anyway, but he probably would, But good old Trump telling people they're adopted. That's next. Hey. Trump's fixer, Michael Cohen. A little story came out from McClatchy. Now, McClatchy's been reporting on this whole Michael Cohen story, trying to verify the Steele dossier. And one of the focusing points that they're focusing on, is where Michael Cohen, in the Steele dossier, claims that Michael Cohen went to Prague to meet with Russian intelligence people in order to hush up and spread some money around to keep the Russian hackers quiet. Okay? And McClatchy now says that they have 4 different sources who have like Eastern European intelligence sources that tell them that they picked up Michael Cohen's cell phone pinged over there, that he was in Prague. So, who knows? McClatchy's going after this thing like a dog with a bone. Since this article came out, Cohen came back out again and says, "I've never been to Prague. I'm telling you, I've never been to Prague." But a couple of things we have to understand is, one is, if he has been, he can say whatever he wants to the press, So he could be telling the truth to, what's his name? Mueller. And he's telling Mueller he was been to Prague, or he's been maybe, it doesn't have to be Prague. It could be outside of Prague. It could be, next to Prague, whatever. I don't know what's next to Prague. Poland? Who knows? I don't even know what Prague is. I can barely spell Prague. I don't even like saying Prague. But what are we going to do? It's 7:19. I got to get my work done. Hey, so it's just another little link in the chain that does another little verifying story there about the Steele dossier. Cohen denies it. He could be telling the truth to Mueller. He could be lying to Mueller about this. This could be an espionage charge. If you're going to Prague, and doing all this kind of stuff under a fake passport and stuff. Who the hell knows? Who knows? There's a lot of stuff that Cohen refused to talk to the New York City DA about. So this could be part of that. Who knows, man? We're in such uncharted territory. We got the president telling little kids there's no Santa Claus. What else is going on? So my own personal life again, stuff like that. Victoria's going to a debate tournament in early January. So, and she's off from school. We've got a lot of time. And she's living here now full time, by the way. And like I said, the mother cut off all supports, and now we got nothing. And the expenses are just through the roof. So anyway, she's going up to ASU for a debate tournament. She's going to be gone for a few days. I was thinking about taking some time off. I was going to hop on a freight train, I don't know what made me think of that idea. Oh, I think we were just driving by the trains and I saw them. And I looked it up online, and you can do it here in Vegas. I know for a fact the guys here in Vegas hop on freight trains and they go up to Salt Lake City. And I think you can go to California too. I think you can go to Arizona from freight trains here. And so I'm looking into that, and I was thinking of just hopping on a freight train going up to Salt Lake City. And then hop on a freight train and come back. Just kind of, it's something I've never done, It's kind of a cool thing to do. We were just driving around last week. We went down to Arizona. We were driving around. We saw a bunch of hitchhikers, and it just kind of spurred my imagination, to try this. I've done other kind of things like that. I ran with the bulls in Spain. I've done tent ministry and things. I've done a lot of things in my life that I like to, experience and talk about. So I thought I'd maybe do that. But I don't know. Having second thoughts now. I got to deal with all this court stuff now. We're going back to court with the ex. And I'm going to have some time to work on these different books. I want to work on the credit repair book, and I got a couple other books I want to work on. A couple of cases I worked on that would make interesting books. A story about that guy. Who's that guy? I forget his name. Beganwall, a serial killer, Richard Beganwall, that I met back in the 80s. Okay, let's take a little commercial break here. Let me get it set up over here, and then we'll play a little commercial break. I'll be right back after these messages. And now a word from our sponsors. The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company. They're located in India, so you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service. They offer all sorts of business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshoring, research network, customer care, press release, content writing, and distribution, and much, much more. Now, you can get a hold of Subhash Technosis by email at info@subhashtechnosis.com. Their website is www.subhashtechnosis.com, and their Skype is ANUSHASUBASH. Check out CartKing.com, 877-986-7771. Have you ever thought about opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Perhaps your current business wants to add multiple point-of-sale locations across the country quickly. Maybe the facility you manage could kickstart revenue by adding coffee, food, or retail services, like let's say you own an office building or a warehouse. Put one of these carts there in the lobby. Well, CartKing.com can be the answer to your needs. CartKing.com is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile retail coffee and food carts and kiosks money can buy. For 20 years, CartKing.com has been working with clients and corporations across America to provide indoor and outdoor carts and kiosks for any application. From large, heated, and secure outdoor retail or food kiosks to smaller, more mobile coffee kiosks or coffee stations, coffee carts, CartKing.com designs and builds them all. Carts and kiosks are fun, and so are the dozens of designs on the website, CartKing.com. Please visit today at CartKing.com or just call them at 877-986-7771. Tell them Ed Opperman sent you and you get a good deal. Remember, all these shows on Awake are brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You can go to emailrevealer.com and get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You also do all the kind of different services for you. Online dating service investigations called an online infidelity investigation. And that's where you give us your husband or your boyfriend, your girlfriend's email address, and we trace it back to their online dating websites, and we return a list of all the dating sites that email is registered to. We can expand on that investigation and trace it back to porn sites, escort service sites, swinger sites, gambling websites, and even prescription drug websites, and all kinds of digital forensics, computer and cell phone digital forensics, where we can recover deleted content from an email or a hard drive and produce a report for you that you can use in court. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can contact me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. Okay, let's get down to what we got to do here tonight. And I almost regret getting into this because I know, I know there's a lot of people who want to believe this or do believe this, okay? And the topic is gang stalking and targeted individuals. And the theory behind this is that there's hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, who have somehow become targets of the government and some undefined government agency, a surveillance agency of the government that is surveilling them in real time. Okay, in real life, sees what they're writing on their emails, and sees and hears what they're saying on their phone, and reads their text in real time, and reacts to them in real time, having physical agents out in the street and at their work and even in their family, you know, and getting them fired from their jobs and doing all this work to make their lives miserable and to drive them crazy. Now, that's the theory, that people are being gang stalked and targeted. They're being targeted for harassment, systematic, organized harassment. That's the theory. And the reason why I'm bringing it up this week is we just did a show with a guest came on, and it was a true story he was telling us. It's a nonfiction book he wrote. And at the very end, you know, the whole thing turned into this thing about gang stalking. And I've avoided doing shows about gang stalking and targeted individuals because of my real life experience. Okay? And I always try to preface this part of the show by giving you my real life experience. And people always get upset and say, Ed, your ego, and you go on drone on and on and on about how you're an expert on this and blah blah blah. And you know, and I understand that, and I also understand that the other YouTubers out there, you know, who you hear talking about these two topics, don't make the effort to present you with their credentials, because they have no credentials and they can't sit there and tell you what they base their opinions on and what they base their analysis on. Okay, but I'm going to tell you what I base mine on. First of all, I have a serious background in counter surveillance. One of the first things that I did as a young junior PI was I worked in an office with one of the guys. We did bug sweeps. We did counter surveillance, counter telephone surveillance, looking for in car sweeps, looking for hidden microphones, that kind of stuff. I'm also very familiar, you know, because of people I knew in the business of surveillance. You know, surveillance operations. I've been involved in major surveillance cases. I've taken classes on how to follow people in cars and all kind of stuff like that. So I do have a background in surveillance and counter-surveillance. Okay? And I routinely talk to and work with investigators and even law enforcement types, and all kinds of stuff. That's what their business is. That's their full-time work as an investigator, surveillance work. So I'm very familiar with this stuff. I also have a background in many high-profile 24-hour news stories. The George Zimmerman case, I had a little piece of that. The Charlie Sheen case, a year-long breakdown of Charlie Sheen. I was involved in that. The Tiger Woods case, year-long news story. I worked on that. The Todd Palin and Sarah Palin investigation I was involved in, which led to a congressional investigation. Okay, and so I'm very familiar about how the news media works. I've been on Nightline, been on Dr. Drew and ABC, all kinds of stuff. And so I'm familiar with how this kind of stuff works. And I'm also familiar with how stories can get shelved or silenced. I talked to you back in June 2016. I was telling you about there was information about Trump and Epstein, and it was being covered up by the National Enquirer. You see now it's all in the major news. I was talking. You go back and find my own shows. You can hear me talking about it. So I'm very familiar with this, and I try to come to you with the stuff that I'm experienced about, that I'm knowledgeable about. Okay? So I know enough, and also, too, I worked on I traveled with the press bus with the Bernie campaign. I covered all the rallies and stuff like that in the press sections. Dealt with people from CNN and Hope Hicks and all kinds of people, all that. I think I have a bit of credentials as far as my news media knowledge. And so when you see a lot of people, again, on YouTube, telling you, well, everything you see on the news is fake and it's all a green screen and this is fake and that's fake and blah, blah, blah. And all these shooters and the media's all in on it. And you have to be part of the 33-degree Masons and, witchcraft and do a sacrifice to be on the news. When they tell you all that stuff, they're telling you from a place of having no experience in these things. They have no first-hand experience, because if they did, they would know that that's not true. Now, it is true that there's a lot of gullible people in the media. I think they go out of their way to hire gullible people that go along with these various party lines. We can see that, especially during the primary, that the Clintons had a lot of influence over what was reported in the media, both on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. There was stuff that went on at the Democratic Convention that I'm aware of that wasn't reported on Fox News. You'd think they would report it. Okay? One of the guests we just had on here, Christine Kramer, she was on the platform committee down there in Washington, D.C., at the convention, the Democratic Convention over there in Philadelphia. Okay? So I have a little first-hand knowledge in some of this kind of stuff. And so when you have this popular notion, and it's popular amongst the conspiracy crowd and the alt media crowd and the YouTube crowd, that there's this phenomenon called gang stalking and targeted individuals, where this government agency that can run a 24-hour surveillance on people, and that also can be covered up, that none of this makes it back to the news, because the news is in on it, of course. They're not going to report on this because they're in on it also. And then also, too, that now that I'm talking out about this, that I'm in on it, too, as well, of course. Okay? Now, I also have some experience, too, being, with the Yippies back in New York City, and WBAI, which was a leftist, radio station, communist, you might call it, radio station, and of experience, real life COINTELPRO. Okay, COINTELPRO program is real. I brought on Betty Metzger, who talked about who uncovered the COINTELPRO program. I brought on the real people, okay, involved in this, okay? And I've been a subject of that. And also, too, when I was involved in all that with the Yippies and with the BAI and stuff like that, I didn't just come under surveillance and infiltration by the FBI and New York City Police Department and the U.S. government. There were other governments as well inserting themselves into us. I talked about that. The KGB. The guy talked about how the KGB, this guy from the Rainbow family, was being paid by the KGB. Then he didn't deny it. So, so there's an assumption here too that these people that are subjects of targeted individuals and gang stalked. Well, that it must be the U.S. That there's no even a thought or the possibility that their foreign governments would be involved, or that private agencies and private security forces for the oil industry, or private, for the different U.S. businesses and industries would be involved in this harassment and this stalking, this surveillance. And it has to be, there's a U.S. government agency doing this. Okay. I've also been involved in major, conspiracy cases and drug cases. I've listened to hours and hours of FBI wiretaps, so I'm familiar about what the FBI is capable of doing as far as surveillance. And even in drug conspiracy cases, even my own case, there was 40 police units in my case. 40 police units surveilling me, and they had an informant on the day I was busted with the marijuana. Back in 1989. Now, that's a big operation, right? And when you have a big drug bust like that, that's how many agents you got involved. You got 30, 40, 50, 60 guys working the case. And even with that kind of a case, that kind of a drug investigation, where you have informants, you have confidential informants that are working for you on the inside, ratting people out, and you have some wiretaps, and you have all these guys following and doing surveillance, helicopters, all that kind of stuff, just to make that one bust. And then that's pretty much the big case that they're working on for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, right? They make that big bust. It's on the news, right? And after a big job like that, they're all exhausted. You got 30, 40, 50 cops. After that big bust, they're all exhausted. They shot their wad. Because it's a big deal to be doing a 24-hour surveillance on a criminal organization. It's a huge operation to do this. In order to do 24-hour surveillance on one person, okay, you need 30, 40 guys doing this. And then you need 30, 40 guys doing this. And then you need, they have to have a support staff. They have to have people doing payroll and all this kind of stuff. In this unnamed Agency X that has no documented budget. Right? Now people will say, well, Ed, okay, there's a black budget out there. There's a black budget out there, and they could do this. Right? They could have this agency of people doing this. Okay. Well, let's take a look at some of these things here, right? If there's hundreds of thousands of people under surveillance, under 24-hour surveillance, okay, being gang stalked and being harassed, right, then you would need 4 million, if you're talking about 40 times 100,000, you're talking about like 4 million people. You need an agency with like 4 million employees, which is pretty huge. We don't have 4 million soldiers, I don't think, okay, in the whole U.S. Army. Just to give you an idea, NYPD, which is a big police force, has 38,000 cops. No, that's the FBI. The FBI has 38,000 agents. Okay, no, that is the NYPD. I'm sorry, I got some notes in front of me here. The FBI has a total of 33,000 employees, and only 13,000 of them are field agents. Okay? So the whole FBI, which can run a real serious operation, they only got 13,000 agents. And to support those 13,000 agents, they need another total of 33,000 employees. Okay? NYPD, which is probably the biggest police department in the country, and California's probably next. They got 40,000 cops. Okay? NSA, right? People talk about, well, Ed, what about the NSA? NSA has about 100,000 employees. They're the largest employer in Maryland, right? Now, by the way, too, and we can get into this whole thing, too, about the NSA. NSA does surveillance telephone surveillance, computer surveillance, hacking, backdoors, in software and stuff like that to get access to software and cell phones and stuff like that. And they're surveilling worldwide, okay? But the NSA has no field agents, okay, that goes out and inserts themselves into your life, informants and people like that, working undercover. Outside of their offices, they hire nerds, technical guys, okay, computer experts, those type of people. Now, I know this because I'm involved in some of the oldest private investigator email loops and news groups and message boards that exist in the business, okay? And you go to these conventions, you talk to people, and you meet people working on different cases, and you meet plenty of guys who are ex-FBI. You meet plenty of guys who are ex-CIA, ex-IRS investigators, ex-NYPD. But you never meet anyone who's a private investigator who's an ex-NSA agent. You may meet a computer security guy who's an ex-NSA, an analyst, that type of guy. But not private investigators, because they don't have field agents doing NSA. NSA doesn't have field agents doing this kind of work. And I don't care what you hear. I'm telling you. Okay? I don't care what people come on here and make up. I'm telling you what's going on in real life. All right? So now, but the theory is that there's millions of field operators. There's millions of surveillance experts and field operatives working for this secret agency X that's doing real-time surveillance and real-time field work, infiltrating themselves into your life and harassing you and stalking you. That when you open up your door, they're parked out in front of your house, and they're peeing on your tree out in front of your house, and they're stealing your mail, and they're talking to your boss and getting you fired when you go apply for jobs. All this kind of stuff. So this agency X, the people who work there, right? Now, we never hear about people who went to apply for a job at agency X and got turned down, and I went to apply for this, I got turned down. We never meet them and hear about them, do we? Right? Well, you hear a lot of stories about people, well, I've been a victim of this, and I have a friend who's a victim of this, but we never hear about the people who are doing this, right? We never hear about the people who worked for this agency X and now have this great background in investigations, and they retire from there, and now they want to go get their PI license and become a private investigator. Hey, I worked for the biggest stalking company in the world. Right? We don't hear about that. And here we would have this agency X, which would have the biggest budget, bigger than NSA and bigger than CIA, biggest budget, and that has to be. They got the most employees, got the most operatives, they got the most highest secretive, high-tech equipment available to surveil on you in real time. But we never hear about these people retiring and want to become a cop, and retiring and want to go into the PI business, retiring from this. And we never hear about people who are in this, working there right now, offering to sell this information and access to this high-tech databases and services that they have, this incredibly gold mine of data, and they're not selling it on the black market to people like me who work in the business of buying and selling information. Now stop it. I'm telling you, from a guy who's a professional in this business with a little bit of respect, and I'm kind of respected in my work. I come on here and I tell you about my personal problems, and but in my work, I'm considered a real guy, and I know how these things work logistically because I put together these kind of things myself, surveillance operations, and worked on this kind of stuff, and then defense in these kind of cases. And also, too, what is the goal of all this surveillance and harassment and stalking and all this? Just to drive the person crazy? There's no case at the end. There's no prosecution at the end where people can say, hey, how were we judging that you're doing your work successfully here, right? We never hear about that. There's no prosecution at the end where we could say, okay, well, this case, this investigation was a success because we got an arrest and a prosecution. We know how to allocate our budget for this. There's none of that. It's just, well, oh, the person's going crazy, and they're unemployed, and now they're on drugs, and they had a little breakdown here and there, psychiatric breakdown. Where you don't have to do any of that, because all you have, if you have this kind of an operation where you have 24-hour surveillance on someone, where you know every move they're making before they even make it, it would be so simple to plant a whole meth lab in their garage, have them arrested, and then when they're there being held for trial, and they start talking about, oh no, there's a big surveillance, I'm being gang-stalked, there's a whole big surveillance, I'm 24-hour surveillance, and I mean, just any psychiatrist off the street would write a report declaring them incompetent to stand trial. They would be locked away in a mental institution. So you could, you know what I mean? If someone is really the target of this kind of thing, it would be so easy to wrap them up. But that doesn't happen either. All you hear about, oh, for the last 40 years I've been gang-stalked and surveilled, I can't get a job. Now, I get a lot of these phone calls, and I have my whole career in this. Back in the old days, before, back in the 80s, back in New York City, we had this woman call the office, and she was telling us about how McDonald's was behind the big blackout, right? And she had the whole story going on in her head, and blah, 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 and they're stalking her, and they're following her around. I've heard all this stuff. I've had hundreds of people contact me trying to hire me over the years with this same story. Okay? And I hate to be dismissive, I hate to be uncaring or unfeeling, but there's usually a component to this story, to this experience of drug use, okay? That the person, okay, will either admit to some drug use in their past or they admit to using drugs now. They were driven to use drugs because of the stalking or whatever. And also, too, of psychiatric problems. They've been diagnosed with psychiatric problems. And when someone will try and hire me, hey, listen, I talk to every single one with respect, okay? And I listen to their story. And I listen to their story because sometimes, even if someone is a little damaged and they're a little, and they've been through trauma, there could still be a lawsuit there. Like I had one recently. A person came to me and they're telling me that they were part of an MK Ultra experiment at this hospital, and I said, well, if this hospital did abuse this patient here, we got a lawsuit against the hospital. And you don't even have to have a lawsuit. You could just you send them the notice to sue, and they settle because they don't want this in the news. But then when you start looking into this and you talk to, well, how can we verify you were at this hospital? Well, you can talk to my family. You go talk to the family, well, it never happened. Listen, man, that guy's crazy. He's had always problems. He's had problems when he was a kid, So I've looked into these kind of cases firsthand. I've worked and I've tried to, and don't come to me and say, well, Ed, look into mine for free. I don't want to work on anything for free, okay? I think I've done more work for free for this audience than anybody should ever be expected to do. Just today alone. Then this month alone. Okay? So please don't come to me, and tell me, Ed, please, I'm looking for free work from you. Please, no. Okay? But I'm trying to tell you that I have looked into these kind of cases, and people, with the cell phone forensics, Ed, there's spyware in my phone. The government has some kind of spyware in my phone. Now, I could have two cases. One person telling me, hey, Ed, my husband's spying on me. We're going through a divorce. There's spyware on my phone. We get that phone. We can find the spyware in that phone. And the other one, Ed, this agency X has some kind of spyware where they're spying on me real time. We can't find anything in that phone. Now, I know people will now jump to the conclusion and says, well, Ed, you don't understand that this secret agency X is so super secret and they have all this technology that you don't understand. It's beyond you, Ed. And what I would reply to you when you say that to me is, if you look back at my bio, the people who taught me cell phone forensics, the people who originally I was sending all my phones to, were doing work for the CIA in Afghanistan. They were the ones who cloned bin Laden's phone. So these people are kind of at the cutting edge of what's out there, what's going on. And when I did my case with Sarah Palin, I had software, beta software, that was even before it was even out to the FBI or the CIA. The company gave me this beta software as a favor because, you know, I was doing something big. So I am kind of plugged into this kind of stuff, guys. You know? And I know people tune into shows like this because there's a titillation factor, and you want to be spooky. You want to get those chills, and you hear about, oh, it's so scary out there, and they're doing this to us, and they're doing that to us, and we're hearing the deep, dark secrets of this, and they're stalking people and doing this. And it would be so easy for me to go along with that. You know, it would be so easy for me to just do that, you know, and do all that right-wing crazy stuff, like this thing that came out about at Bush's funeral, where they found this letter inside people's what's those things, program, you know. And there's all this stuff all over YouTube. All these, this must be the arrest warrants, or this must be that the Trump is telling them, you're next, you're the next one to die. I signed Bush's assassination warrant, and now I'm signing. You know, all this jumping to wild conclusions, you know, of this weird analysis of these videos, you know, which could be anything. Okay, it could be as something as ridiculous as someone saying, hey, we're raising funds for this event. Do you want to donate some money? Okay, and that's why they're making these faces, you know. And, you know, the thing about W. Bush writing on his program and showing it to his wife, and they show it to Jeb, and Jeb makes that big face. It would be much more logical that he wrote something like, hey, I need a drink. I have to get out of here. I can't go through this any longer. And your brother would get fed up with you and disgusted with you and make that face. Because that's the kind of way people really behave at funerals, when they're all emotional and alcoholic and have, you know, problems. Not that they're going to use that opportunity to send out arrest warrants. That's crazy. So I know people who listen to this show, and, you know, a lot of you people are believers in this kind of thing. And I know that after this show, a lot of people are going to contact me and try and convince me. You want to convince me that what you're experiencing is real. Okay? And I understand that, and I sympathize with you. I really do. And even if you're going through this kind of trauma and you believe all this is real, you know, you still might have a case. It doesn't mean that, you know, you don't have a case against whatever caused this trauma in your life. But this idea that it's this big, giant, nondescript agency with that would be the most, by the way, the most successful agency out of all these things. They're running their operation, man. Top secret, top notch, 100% results. They haven't been exposed, and so the people who are running it got to be top notch folks. Who, as a matter of fact, don't care about their resume. Okay, you join the CIA, you get recruited out of college. This stuff goes on your resume because you're looking for higher positions, you know, in life. But not people who go to work for this Agency X. They don't care about that. They're just happy working for Agency X until they die, and they don't want anything after retirement either. And we also don't hear about any kind of cases where people who work for Agency X that have this kind of full, total control over your life are involved in any kind of human trafficking or embezzlement or any of these kind of crimes that come out. Okay, never hear about that either. Which would be right. Wouldn't it be if there was this agency with all this power, with all this information and all this control, totally top secret, wouldn't they be abusing that power with that kind of stuff? Of course they would. DHS is doing it, or the FBI, or regular cops are doing it all over the place. But this agency, no. And this agency isn't just hiring. They're not recruiting people out of Harvard like the CIA does. They got people working for them like teenage kids on skateboards. We're working for them out there, spying on you 24 hours a day. And those kids aren't blabbing to anybody on YouTube or Twitter or Reddit, you know, saying, hey, let me confess, I worked on this before. Really? Now, when I say it like this, doesn't what I'm saying make sense? Now, I'm going to take a couple of steps back because I'm absolutely 100% not saying that stalking doesn't exist, okay, and organized stalking doesn't exist. Because look at the Hempstead case, you know. There's organized stalking, there's organized trolling going on in that case, and I've seen it firsthand. But it's not to the extent of this, what people are claiming, where there's this global agency with 24-hour surveillance. It's crazy. I've seen, and also too, as far as the business of satanic cults, okay, let's call it that bunch. They definitely do gang stalking too, okay, and they've driven people crazy, and I've seen that firsthand. But again, it's not this level of 24-hour surveillance with high tech equipment and all this kind of stuff, okay. When that was going on, they were sitting there with binoculars looking over someone's shoulder to trace their email and their online activity. They were down there at the college computer room looking over Curio Jones' shoulder with binoculars to see who was logging in. That's the low-level technology they were using. So, I'm not sure if I covered all my notes in this. And see, the thing is, too, oh my God. I think the reason how these kind of things become so popular, okay, is because there are people that are suffering severe trauma who believe this with all their heart, okay, and they look at every little clue and they believe it. But it's the other people that aren't like that who believe this kind of thing is possible because they have no experience in surveillance, they have no experience in counter surveillance, and they have no first-hand experience of having their life. Like when I was working on the Sarah Palin case, I've talked about this. I was under surveillance. They were breaking into my mail. We know that for a fact. They were tampering with our mail. We know for a fact they broke into my office. We know for a fact they broke into my house. They got into my safe. We know this, okay? And I was being infiltrated by agents of foreign governments. I know this for a fact. Okay, and even that was a pretty high-level case. She's running for president of the United States. Okay, it's a pretty big deal. There's some pretty serious people involved in it. And on the other stuff I get involved in. Okay, so and I think people who talk about this and come up with these theories on YouTube and they elaborate and they just run with it, haven't had that kind of real-life experience. Basically what they're doing is they're watching other people on YouTube and reading other things on the internet, then coming on the internet and repeating it and adding a little more juice to it and some scary music and some pictures. Okay, listen, maybe I've lost more listeners after tonight because you want to believe in this, But what do? I got to come out here and I got to tell you the truth. I got to tell you what my experience is, what my knowledge is, and what I see real. And I cannot think of another person out there who has a radio show, who's in my position, that's had clients come to them and tell them these stories over and over, and I've actually looked into them and had all this and actually had a life where I've been infiltrated and been surveilled. I can't think of anybody out there would have more life experience in this area than I have, who can come here and come to you with my conclusion. So it's the best I can do. I got to come here and report to you the truth. I got to come to you and report to you my experiences. I know a lot of people are going to hate this. They're going to hate me. Ed's a shill. He's in on it. He's part of it. Okay, fine. Because I'm getting no benefit from any of this, doing this stuff anyway, to tell you the truth, man. I'm getting this is no fun for me. It's the opposite of fun. It's work. I'm not getting compensated for it anyway. Anyway, what are we going to do? Okay, let's take a little commercial break. We'll be right back after these messages.
And now a word from our sponsors. The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company. They're located in India, so you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service. They offer all sorts of business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshoring, research network, customer care, press release, content writing and distribution, and much, much more. Now, you can get a hold of Subash Technosis by email at info@subashtechnosis.com. Their website is www.subashtechnosis.com, and their Skype is ANUSHASUBASH. Check out CartKing.com, 877-986-7771. Have you ever thought about opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Perhaps your current business wants to add multiple point-of-sale locations across the country quickly. Maybe the facility you manage could kickstart revenue by adding coffee, food, or retail services, like let's say you own an office building or a warehouse. Put one of these carts there in the lobby. Well, CartKing.com can be the answer to your needs. CartKing.com is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile retail coffee and food carts and kiosks money can buy. For 20 years, CartKing.com has been working with clients and corporations across America to provide indoor and outdoor carts and kiosks for any application. From large, heated, and secure outdoor retail or food kiosks to smaller, more mobile coffee kiosks or coffee stations, coffee carts, CartKing.com designs and builds them all. Carts and kiosks are fun, and so are the dozens of designs on the website, CartKing.com. Please visit today at CartKing.com or just call them at 877-986-7771. Tell them Ed Opperman sent you and you get a good deal. Remember, all these shows on Awake are brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You can go to emailrevealer.com and get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You also do all the kind of different services for you. Online dating service investigations called an online infidelity investigation. And that's where you give us your husband or your boyfriend, your girlfriend's email address, and we trace it back to their online dating websites, and we return a list of all the dating sites that that email is registered to. We can expand on that investigation and trace it back to porn sites, escort service sites, swinger sites, gambling websites, and even prescription drug websites, and all kinds of digital forensics, computer and cell phone digital forensics, where we can recover deleted content from an email or a hard drive and produce a report for you that you can use in court. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can contact me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com.
Okay, welcome back. Don't forget, if you have a question or a comment, you can call 888-204-3834, and you leave a recorded message there. And you want to leave, that's where you'll leave the message that will be played on the air. Don't say, hey, Ed, call me back. Okay. Oh, God. That's where you leave the message, and that's what I play on the air. And then I'll either answer your question or comment back or whatever, or just, I'll make fun of you. If you like today's show, go to OppermanReport.com. We have a members section with over 185 shows on there. Brand new content, exclusive content you won't find anywhere else. Hey, we have videos, court documents, all kinds of stuff in our members section. Or you can go to the special archives and order the shows one by one for like $2, $1.99 it is. You can do that. And also, too, we always accept your donations, and we thankfully accept them. And then it's what keeps us afloat here. Again, we're like 3 months behind on the bills here. I've been putting it all on credit cards, and now the food's still, what do you call it, the child support's cut off. So, we're really struggling here. All right, guys, thank you so much. And I know, listen, it really sucks that I got to, when I come on, I got to be afraid to tell you the truth, but this is my experience. This is my first-hand experience with gang stalking, investigating claims of gang stalking and targeting individuals, and just looking at what I know about what it takes to do a surveillance operation and a drug bust, and these kind of things, or an organized crime investigation. What I know, the volume of work involved, the army of cops and all kinds of people involved to do something like that is just monumental. And to think that there's tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people that are somehow under 24-hour surveillance is just impossible. All right, guys, thank you so much. Good night.